Most people who make money illegally try to stay low-key, hiding from the public to avoid government attention. But this man did the exact opposite. Instead of hiding, he flexed his wealth on social media for everyone to see. His name is Rayman Abbas, aka Hush Puppy. He scammed millions of dollars from major companies, including government institutions. After making a large amount of money through scamming, he wanted to show off his wealth on social media, especially on Instagram. But in the end, he was arrested because of the same account he created to flex his wealth. But how did a scammer who seemed untraceable end up exposing himself through his own Instagram posts? In this video, we are going to look at how one post helped the FBI to catch one of the biggest scammers in the world. To truly understand how Hush Puppy lost everything and ended up arrested by the FBI, we need to go back to where it all began, when he was just a regular boy. Rayman Abbas was born on the street of Lagos, Nigeria, one of the poorest parts of the country. His father worked as a taxi driver while his mother sold bread to ensure the family had their next meal. In this country, most people live a hand-to-mouth life. When Rayman was old enough, he started washing cars to earn just a few cents. But he didn't want to live this kind of life. He believed that to get rich quickly, he needed to do something special, even if it was illegal. That was when he began his journey as a scammer. At that time, Rayman spent much of his time with Yahoo Boys, a term used in Nigeria for people who commit online scams. Back then, Rayman didn't commit any big scams. As a teenager, he got involved with what Nigerian calls the Yahoo Boys. A common scam was the online romance scheme. They would pretend to be wealthy businessmen or lonely foreigners, using stolen photos to lure victims into fake relationships. Once trust was gained, they would invent emergencies like needing money for a visa or a hospital bill, and then ask for just a little help. For young Rayman, the scams bought him quick cash, but nothing significant. But the taste of easy money planted a dangerous idea. If small lies could bring a few dollars, then bigger lies could bring millions. However, around the same time, the Nigerian government was tightening its crackdown on Yahoo Boys. Internet fraud was becoming a national embarrassment, and authorities were under pressure to take action. Rayman knew the risks were rising, so in 2014, he left Nigeria behind and moved to Malaysia, hoping to find bigger opportunities abroad. Moving to Malaysia changed everything. Unlike in Nigeria, he now had greater access and opportunities to pull off the bigger scams he dreamed of. During this time, he created an Instagram account under the name Hush Puppy. But back then, he would just post a regular photo of himself on Instagram, mainly to let people know he was in Malaysia. Little did he know that same account would one day expose him to the FBI. After moving to Malaysia, Hush Puppy became active on social media, especially on Instagram. From his apartment in Kuala Lumpur, he started posting photos of himself wearing very expensive designer clothes. In every post, he wrote captions meant to inspire people, often saying that he came from a poor family but became rich, so they could do it too. People began to notice him. However, those who already knew him started questioning where all this money was coming from. When asked, he claimed to be a real estate investor, but again another question followed. Hush Puppy called himself a real estate investor, yet he never showed a single property. How could a boy from Nigeria who once washed a car for a living become this rich? Still, people did nothing beyond asking questions. Even with these doubts, most of his followers believed he was simply a hard worker. As his income seemed to grow, he moved to Dubai. There, his lifestyle reached a whole new level. He began spending every large amount of money on luxury clothing and documented his daily life on Instagram. Walking out of stores with high-end shopping bags, getting into a Rolls Royce worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. His followers quickly skyrocketed, eventually reaching 2 million followers on Instagram. As his popularity skyrocketed, major brands started noticing him. Sending him gifts wasn't enough. They invited him to their VIP shows. Many began to see him as a successful man. But beneath all the luxury, one question remained unanswered. Where was all this money really coming from? He wasn't selling courses, he had no products, and sponsorship alone couldn't possibly cover such a big expenses. Little did people know, behind the luxury lifestyle was a global web of scam worth millions of dollars. Hush Puppy was living the life that millions only dreamed of, but where did all the money really coming from? The scam Rayman Abbas was involved in was not just a random scam. The scam he used to get the money is called a BEC scam, or business email compromise scam. It's not hard as it seems. First, someone hacks into a corporate account. There may be actual hacking involved. but more often it's done using social engineering tactics like phishing or even guessing passwords and exploiting poor securities. Once they have access to the target email account, the scammer begin forwarding copies of incoming and outgoing mail to themselves and may spend weeks or months watching the activities of the business, waiting for a large invoice to come in or go out. The idea is that when the right opportunity comes along, the scammer inserts themselves into the transaction and reroute it to a different bank account. This can work in several ways. The scammer might create an invoice identical to the real one, but with the bank account information changed, and then resend it from the hacked email account along with a message apologizing for the mix-up. Another scenario is when the scammer creates a spoof email account very similar to a real one, but with one letter changed or some other slight difference. For example, if the company email is like this, they might add one letter or remove one letter from the website. There are different levels in the scam. First, you have the hacker who actually break into the account. Then there are the money mules who are often people tricked into opening bank accounts. Then you have the loaders or the money launderers who control international bank accounts that can accept large amount of money and redistribute the money to the mule account around the world where the money gets split up among other participants. They might also try to launder the money by buying assets such as a property or gold, or through legitimate business that take in physical cash, or by converting it into a cryptocurrency. The main role of Rayman Abbas was to provide a bank account that can handle large amount of money. According to the FBI, in 2021 alone, people lost nearly $2.4 billion to business email compromise scam. It's more concerning than you think. Even though he scammed countless companies, let's dive into a few of the biggest ones he successfully deceived and the massive amount of money he walked away with. By 2019, he wasn't just an influencer, he was running a global web of scam. We will begin from the smallest amount of money he scammed to the biggest amount he scammed from major companies. On 19 of 2017, Hushpuppi and his team targeted a New York law firm company. First, they gained access to New York-based law firm's email system. Then, they started monitoring conversation between the firm and a wealthy businessman who was closing a property deal. When it was time to send money, Hushpuppi's team slipped the invoice by writing their own bank detail on it and sent the invoice with a fake email as a law firm. Then the businessman sent $923,000 to a bank account controlled by Hushpuppi. But the New York law firm wasn't the only victim. They scammed $1.1 million from a businessman who wanted to build a school using the same technique. But this scam was nothing compared to what he scammed next. In February 2019, employees at Malta's oldest financial institution noticed something strange. Millions were disappearing from their system in real time. Hackers had infiltrated their payment network and executed 5 fraudulent transfers, sending $40.7 million to a bank account across the world. In this operation, Hushpuppi's primary role was to launder the stolen money. He was responsible for receiving the funds and breaking them into smaller transactions to avoid detection. After earning $40.1 million, he and his team tried to pull off the biggest scams anyone could imagine. Their next target was an English Premier League club. They attempted to scam over $120 million using a BEC scam method. Fortunately, they didn't succeed, but it revealed something terrifying. Hushpuppi and his team had moved up to targeting national level institutions. While all of this was happening, Hushpuppi was busy flexing his wealth on social media, acting like he earned his money through hard work. As his income grew, his flexing grew as well. He started flying on a private jet and bought a Richard Mille watch worth $250,000. But his followers weren't the only one watching him. The FBI was tracking his every move. What Hushpuppi didn't realize was that US authorities were quietly connecting the dots, and one post gave the FBI everything they needed to arrest him. Now Hushpuppi had it all, money, fame and influence, but soon it was all going to end because the FBI was watching him and his friend called Alumari. They began digging up every piece of information they could find on Hushpuppi, and his social media posts made their work a lot easier. One post in particular helped them crack the case, a photo of Hushpuppi receiving a birthday cake from Fendi. Investigators used that post to confirm his date of birth, which they then traced to a visa application. From there, they were able to figure out who he really was and what he did for a living. But before they could arrest him, they had to wait until they had something concrete. As they watched and collected evidence, the FBI uncovered multiple business email compromise scams, including the Malta bank fraud where both Hushpuppi and Alumari were involved. Before the FBI moved on Hushpuppi, they arrested Alumari at the airport. Now all the chats Hushpuppi had with Alumari were in the hands of the authorities. At this point, it would have been smarter for Hushpuppi to disappear, but he did the exact opposite. Instead of hiding, he continued posting his luxury lifestyle online by simply changing his bio from billionaire Gucci master to a real estate developer. But it didn't change anything. The FBI continued investigating him, carefully observing his every move and gathering evidence against him. On Monday, June 18, 2020, in the middle of the night, a SWAT team from the Dubai police raided his apartment and arrested Hushpuppi along with 10 of his association. Hushpuppi was then sent to the United States, where he faced serious criminal charges for money laundering. In 2020, he was officially sentenced to 11 years in prison. The same Instagram account he used to flex private jets and designer clothes became the evidence that locked him away 11 years in prison. He traded real freedom for fake validation. 11 years in prison, not because he was caught stealing, but because he couldn't stop showing off the money he gets through scamming. I've put a lot of time and effort into making this video. If you enjoyed the video, please take a second to like, comment and subscribe. It helps me more than you might think.